I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
And you know, this type of stuff, there was a young lady, I think she was like 40 years old, football mom. She went to hang out with the other football moms who happened to be all white. Okay, she went out at 2 a.m. to go smoke. Then next thing you know, they find her at 7:30 a.m. the next morning, dead in the backyard, but they don't call the police until like an hour and a half later. Oh, she was drunk, fell off the balcony. Why would she be drinking around all these white folks? She don't hardly know. To the point where she's that knocked down drunk. And then why she got these abrasions and shit on her. You know,
Kendrick Johnson. Looking for
Kendrick Johnson, you know, you find him rolled up in a wrestling mat. Right. You find him rolled up in a wrestling mat, and he went to go get his shoe. He went to go get his shoe, and he died of asphyxiation because he got stuck in the mat. Right. And to try to sit here and gaslight Black people into thinking like, okay, man, these accidents happen. Maybe once, maybe twice, but not 3 times. No, I don't believe it.
Fool me once, you know.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Yeah. So I understand what you all are saying in terms of you never want to be insensitive and say, like, well, why y'all let them hang with them white folks? You should have been out there no way. That's absolutely true. But I'm sure that's not going to ease the pain of Nolan Wells' family.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. It can still be a teachable moment without us being insensitive.
Yeah,
for our own families and children.
I'm not blaming him for letting him go out there, him being out there. All I'm saying is that we have to be, when things like this occur, you can't just say, oh, I don't want to be insensitive. You do have to talk about that. We have to be more intentional in the neighborhoods we move to, more intentional on where our kids are going to school and who they're around. Because oftentimes, and this, you know, I've looked at it and I've said, man, it's almost like where you're you're saying, I'm better than you other Black people. I'm gonna move out here. I got mine. We know we could put, we talked about it last time, Rika, we were talking about investing back in these communities that we don't live in. Well, how about you take the above average tax base that you have and you take it to a location that doesn't necessarily need that money, right? So then it's cyclical, right? So we keep perpetuating that. And so those urban areas or other areas, low income areas, they don't have those people who can be examples or who can lead the teacher, say, oh, these dads are involved in the PTA or these moms are involved in the kids' lives. And so it becomes a cycle. And like, nobody gives a care around here, so I don't give a care around here.
Mm.
But it's all by design,
Yeah, no, exactly.
And it's a system.
Because quite frankly, you can get a house for $300,000 out in the suburb or something, and if you trying to live in the city, in a quote unquote area where you still want to have a good school for your kids, then the property value, the taxes, all that is sky high now. Mm-hmm. So you kind of do gotta move it. I mean,
yeah, but what I'm saying is a system now. So you got quote unquote urban schools, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you look at the neighborhood, if there's not good jobs for the parents have to work additional hours. So that means there's lack of supervision for the children, right? They're not making the same wages, so the tax base isn't there. So then you have the schools that don't have as many resources. So then you have, we go back to the pandemic. I think I told the story before. My ex-wife at the time, she worked at a school where as soon as we shut down for the pandemic, each kid had their own tablet and laptop within a week so they could continue to learn from home. But my friend who was in North Omaha, which is predominantly Black, there was no such resources. So you got mom who may have 4 or 5 kids and they all have to get online to learn, but the only thing they have is mom's cell phone. It don't equate. There's no, it doesn't match up, right? So you then put up in a position as a black parent, like, okay, do I want to keep it real, keep my kid grounded with people that look like them, that may happen to live in this neighborhood? Because there are black neighborhoods, right, that aren't quote unquote disadvantaged. But do I move them out to a certain place then where now their psyche and their spirit is being attacked? I'm a perfect example of that. I grew up in my first 2 years of my life, I grew up in the hood of Topeka, Kansas, the fucking hood. And then my pops was like, nope, we're not gonna lose this one. So we're gonna move out here with the white folks into rural Kansas. And so, yes, the level of education that I was able to get was better, but every day was about it. You're battling the teachers who are racist against you, the administrators who are racist against you, and a lot of them white kids whose parents are racist, and that shit trickles down to the people that you interact with. I remember several times thinking I got a friend who happens to be white, I'm hanging out with them, and the next thing you know, they accidentally dropped the N-bomb. And I'm like, damn, man, I thought we was cool. You like to listen to Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, but you still call it just because how I am, you call other black folks nigger. Hopefully we don't get flagged for that. I'm gonna tell this story. I'm gonna get on y'all's couch.
Oh, that's the one word you're not gonna get flagged for.
You're right. I'm gonna get on y'all's couch for a minute. I will never forget. I was in 6th grade. And I don't know about y'all, but like your classroom would do different things. Like we would adopt families for Christmas. And we adopted a family. Our classroom and the other 6th grade class, we adopted this family for Christmas. So we got all these toys, food, hams, turkeys, all this kind of shit, right? Oh, it's a mom with 3 kids. So one of them is a boy. So we bring stuff for the boy and all this, that, and the other. And I'll never forget, we were outside of the school waiting for the family to pull up so they can get their gifts. And when they got out the vehicle, it was a big fat black lady. And you know how sometimes you're big and your clothes bunch up or whatever. So she was kind of struggling to get out the car. And all them little white kids was laughing at her. And I looked, and the principal, who I thought was cool, he was laughing too. And here I am, 11, 12 years old, stomach and knots, wanting to tell these black people, man, don't take shit from these white folks. And they was just so happy and stuff. So that's the type of stuff that you subject your kids to when you move them down. So that's why they have Jack and Jill. That's why Jack and Jill started, right? Listen, we got the black kids in all these white spaces. We got to keep it connected to black people. Then people tried to vilify that by like, oh, y'all bougie blacks think y'all better than everybody else. No, we shouldn't feel guilty for whatever level of success we obtain, but it doesn't make us a sellout because we want to try to give our kid the best chance to have a good future. So it puts parents in a difficult situation. I don't know. Like he was at I think he was at a junior college. He played football at a junior college, or maybe he was D2 or something like that. And he did have a black friend, but I got kids who have friends who aren't black. And to Rika's point, there's certain families I knew, like, if he stays with them, I know their standard of how they raise their kids. I ain't really got to worry. But, and I'll say it, the exception doesn't make the norm. And there's different standards for our cultures that we have to be mindful of.
And like you mentioned Jack and Jill, they're not the only organization. That's the whole thing, is we have to keep them connected somehow, with other kids and I'm not gonna say necessarily family, but I mean, I think more so kids and around their age that they can interact with and share some experiences and have commonality with.
And that's crazy because obviously I'm a little more hood than most people that I know, but I had never heard of Jack and Jill until I was good and grown, and my kids was way too old to be trying to get them involved with some type of stuff like that. But I don't know any, like you said, there are other ones. I don't know any other ones. I only know that one because I feel like some people that I know recently joined or something like that, but I never knew the origins or the purpose behind it or anything like that. So I never paid anything like that any attention. For me, I try to use sports and their activities to keep them connected. But then my children, like, because we kept them in sports in U City, in the city, as much as we could until it got to the point where just, you know, they got too old. They started playing with the schools and then it changed. But then also the dynamics of it changed. But similar to your story, when my daughter was a freshman, man, we had so many incidents with that child. They knew me at the school because my daughter came home one day like, I wish I had blonde hair and blue eyes. I was like, what? And she was like, well, my teacher tells everybody else that they're pretty, but me, she never tells me that. So I think if I had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she would tell me I was pretty. Baby, you know, I was up at that school the next day. That lady and her life and her job was hanging by a thread. And they was like, all these other things happen or whatever. But I was up there all the time. I was like, let my child come home and say some more crazy stuff. But we put her in like confidence class and all this other stuff. She would leave for a period a day and go do a special class. And I had to start actually like wearing my hair curly so that she could be comfortable wearing her hair curly. Cause I'm like, shoot, I wear my hair straight all the time. She thinks she's supposed to have her hair straight. So I was like, all right, now I got to change my life to combat the stuff that this girl's going through every day. And that was kindergarten.
So
Like,
to your point, and I missed her twice on this show. My ex-wife was an educator, and she wore protective styles, right? So, you know, listen, I'm gonna wear a weave, I'm gonna wear a wig or whatever. And I always tell her, I said, listen, you natural, you should wear your hair natural, you know, just every now and again at the school. But you ain't got to do your hair. You bald, you ain't got to get up and do hair. I get that. But I'm saying, you know, you got young Black girls that are looking at you, it'll mean a lot for them. One day she did it, not because I asked her to, but because, listen, it just so happened to be something that she wanted to do. And she said, you know what? So many of those little girls was like, Miss Banks, I love your hair. And it really meant something to them to see a Black woman who was an educator, because I didn't grow up with Black educators. I think there was one Black teacher at my elementary school. She happened to be my cousin, you know, so I couldn't be in her class, right? I didn't have a Black teacher until I got to Mizzou.
Wow.
I didn't have a Black teacher until I got to Mizzou. That's the type of environment I had. So it was critical that I had a mom who reinforced that, hey, listen, you are a handsome Black man. You know, they want to be like you. You got to be better than them. You can run circles. You have to have that type of support at home to make sure that you know, because these kids, if you let them, you'll have your smart Black child in a remedial classroom.
For sure. Yep. Happens
They
all
would
the
have
time.
and some of us try to say, oh, listen, well, I'm gonna send my kid to parochial school. They the worst. Because they'll do everything to try to get your child up out of there. Say he's a behavior problem, set him up to fail. But if the school to prison pipeline, it's real.